The Stone Zone with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Welcome, I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you are back in the Stone Zone. Well, last night I was at Mar-a-Lago with General Michael Flynn, Tucker Carlson, Kid Rock, and a number of others to celebrate the America's Future event hosted by General Flynn and his sister Mary Flynn. Now, this is significant because there are still a subculture of people out on social media who say that Stone and Flynn, the Flintstones they like to call us, have somehow not been supportive or loyal to President Donald Trump. In fact, no one has been more loyal to the president than General Flynn, other than perhaps myself. Let's take a quick look at the video last night that a lot of people told us wasn't going to happen.
Not going to take any more than 2 seconds. I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, the next president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Mike. And I'll tell you what, this man is a warrior. What he went through, right? What he went through. I just want to thank you. We don't do this often at Mar-a-Lago. We like to keep it just sort of nice and simple. Where rich members are, and they're saying, "Who are those people? Who are all those people?" But I just, this was something I felt we had to do. America's future. That's what all about America's future. We made America's future a lot better because we beat a radical left group of people that were destroying our country. They were letting millions and millions of people pour through open borders. It's so ridiculously, if you look at it, jails being emptied into our country. And don't worry, we're changing it. It's all changing on January 20th. But jails from countries all over the world coming into our country, being emptied in mental institutions, coming in, gang members. Other than that, they were very nice, okay? It's not even believable. You know, I said this during the campaign. We had a very successful campaign. That last 90 days was like pure perfection. It was pure perfection.
An excellent evening with General Flynn, which is why I wanted to play that for you. Anyway, joining us now to break down the political developments is my co-host for the day. Mark Vargas is the editor-in-chief of the Illinois Review, and he joins me in the Stone Zone now.
Roger, always an honor to be with you. Even when I'm on the road, it's always an honor.
It's great to be with you. Mark, you missed a heck of a party last night. General Flynn, I think, getting the accolades that he deserves from the president. By the way, the largest event ever at Mar-a-Lago. It was extraordinary. I was shocked at how many people are supporting General Flynn's America's Future effort. So it was a great night, and we missed you. I guess we'll see you for dinner a little later this week, right?
That's right. Looking forward to seeing you on Thursday. And Roger, it's laughable that anyone would even suggest that you and General Flynn have not been loyal to the president. You've been so loyal to the point that it's cost you both significantly a great personal and professional expense. And so, Roger, I just want to reiterate that you are an incredible patriot, as is General Mike Flynn.
All right. Well, I appreciate that very much. It's an odd kind of subculture of, I guess, some Q people out there, but it has no foundation. By the way, just to be very clear, there was a period very, very early in which I said that if President Trump elected not to run, if he decided not to run, or if there was some legal reason why he could not run, which thank God never developed, yeah, I think General Flynn would have been superior to Governor Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley. Still share that view. That is not the same thing as saying, oh, we need to supplant Donald Trump, which I was committed to his reelection from the very beginning. All right, let's go into some of the political news. A very big announcement yesterday that Kimberly Guilfoyle, formerly of Fox, who emerged, I think, as one of the president's single most effective and hardest working advocates, will be our ambassador to Greece. This is, I think, a perfect position for her. Kimberly Guilfoyle, most people don't know this, she was a prosecutor in California, as was Kamala Harris. Kimberly Guilfoyle literally never lost a case, very famous for giving her summations completely without notes, an extraordinarily accomplished journalist at Fox, but who really emerged as one of the hardest working and most dedicated supporters of the president. Now, there's a lot of stuff in the media today about her personal life. We're not going to get into that here. I think this is an excellent appointment. And Greece and the relationship between Greece and Turkey is a very important one. Is also a very delicate one. Both allies of the United States. Your thoughts on this appointment, Mark?
I think it's a tremendous appointment, and you're right. She has an incredible resume, a wildly successful attorney. People forget about that, and that her success at Fox News, but more importantly, her unflinched loyalty to President Donald Trump during the peaks and valleys when the Democrats and the media were spending all day long attacking the President Trump and everyone around him. And so I think this is a perfect pick, and she's going to serve our country in this capacity. I'm so proud of her, and it's this is a new day in America, and we're seeing this with every pick that President Trump is making.
Yeah, I agree. The other big announcement yesterday, Tom Barrack, a man I've known since 1972 with Colony Capital, a billionaire, a California billionaire who is a contemporary of Donald Trump. It's interesting. Tom Barrack, who once worked for the legendary Bass Brothers, was the man who negotiated Donald Trump's purchase of the Plaza Hotel in New York. When Barrack went to New York, he assumed that he would be negotiating with some Trump organization lawyer in what was a very complicated transaction. But he ended up negotiating with Donald Trump himself over several days. Very successful negotiation. Trump, as you know, acquired the Plaza Hotel, which he would later sell. Again, another white shoe asset, another extraordinary asset. But they became very close friends. Barrack went on to be a key fundraiser and advisor for the 2016 campaign, was the head of the inaugural committee. And then he quite outrageously was charged by the Biden administration for lobbying without filing a foreign agent's registration form. Now, the argument was that he spoke out in favor of the Abraham Accords. Tom is Lebanese. He has obviously a number of clients in the region, but to lobby, you have to be compensated. So, yeah, if the Saudis, for example, or other Arab nations put money into his long-term investment fund 16 years ago, it's hard to say that that is the quid pro quo for the support of the Abraham Accords. It was a ridiculous indictment. Having spoken to Tom about it, both at the time and now, I realized that he was in the same essential situation that I was in, where he didn't really do anything wrong, but they were trying to pressure him into testifying falsely against his friend, President Trump. The important thing, of course, is that he went to trial in Brooklyn, New York, and he was acquitted on all counts. So he is, it's fair to say that he is squeaky clean. This is going to be a very difficult posting. This is very difficult because of Turkey's role in the region, and specifically pertaining to actions going on currently in Syria. If you could, Mark, take a moment to try to look at the Syrian situation now, 3 days later, because it's complicated, it's difficult to understand, but it appears to me like we're supporting ISIS. And although President Donald Trump says we should stay out of this, American bomber pilots are hitting targets in ISIS even as we speak.
There's no doubt that the Biden administration wants to hand President Trump literally a World War III on January 20th when he takes office. And the fact that the Biden administration is supporting ISIS is no surprise because, Roger, we supported the terrorists and the Taliban in Afghanistan when we literally left them billions and billions of dollars of high-grade, military-grade equipment and materials that are being used against us and our allies abroad. You know, what's interesting, and people don't realize this, is that the Taliban prior to this couldn't fight at night. Why? Because they didn't have the capability. Guess what? Now they can. Why? Because they have our night vision goggles, among other billions of dollars. And so, again, this is a strategy by the deliberate strategy by the Biden regime to basically sabotage the President Trump's first vision for making our country great again. But it is going from bad to worse. And again, I can't reiterate this enough. I fear for a World War III type breaking out here in the Middle East. All hell is breaking loose.
Yeah, I don't think that is an unfounded opinion. It's very clear that they want to hand Donald Trump a world on fire. It's interesting to see the reaction of the various world leaders in Notre Dame, where the president went over the weekend for the dedication of the new cathedral. You can see there's a new sheriff in town, the way they were kind of lined up like children. These are the same people who were making fun of him, 4 years ago. I think they now respect that not only is he back, but the United States is back in a more assertive role in terms of Trump's adherence, not to the neocon doctrine of going around the world looking for wars to get into, but to the basic concept of peace through strength, that strength is a deterrent. This is a throwback to the views of Eisenhower, the views of Reagan, as opposed to the more recent Republican Party. So it is amazing that the man is not even in office yet, but Hamas has already signaled that they would like to resolve matters. I think it's pretty clear in the Ukrainian-Russian conflict that neither side wants the killing to continue. The only thing that's stopping a peace agreement there today is this administration. Here is the president's press secretary saying that we're going to give another $50 billion to Ukraine. Let's roll it.
The United States and G7 are now making good on that commitment. Together, we will leverage income earned from frozen Russian sovereign assets to provide a total of $50 billion of extraordinary revenue acceleration ERA loans to Ukraine. This will lend vital support to the people of Ukraine as they defend their country, and it also makes clear aggressors and tyrants will be responsible for the damage they cause.
Mark, your reaction?
I mean, how much have we spent? $174 billion in total aid to Ukraine, and where are we at with that? What's the return on that investment? I'm not really seeing that right now. And what's remarkable is while we're handing over all of this money to Ukraine, our own residents are suffering and dying. We've got residents living in our major cities that are living in third world conditions. Our children in inner cities are going to schools with mold and leaky roofs. Everyday hardworking Americans are struggling to pay their bills and put groceries in their refrigerator. And yet, while President Trump won a gigantic mandate about America first, Joe Biden and his administration has been America last. And everyday Americans are struggling while we are sending billions and billions of dollars overseas. It's got to stop, and it will stop on January 20th.
You know, Mark, I took a lot of flack for this, but I was critical of the fact that when President Zelensky met President Trump, President-elect Trump, in Paris, that he showed up wearing essentially a dirty sweatshirt and fatigues. Now, we've given this guy billions of dollars. He wore a suit and tie for the World Economic Forum event. I think it is extraordinarily disrespectful to not just to the president, but also to the American people, that the guy could not dress like everybody else who was dressed there and put on a tie. It does kind of give you the impression that, in fact, he's an actor playing a role. In other words, he is the front man for a certain number of oligarchs. I wrote about this, and I must admit I'm shocked at how much pickup it got, both in the media and in social media. I just don't understand why the guy can't. Does he not own a suit, do you think?
Well, after all, 174 billion going to Ukraine, we know, Roger, that he can certainly afford one. If he couldn't then, he can now. But you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. It is a total disrespect to the American people and a slap in the face that our hard-earned money is going to assist him and his country, and he doesn't have the decency nor the respect to dress appropriately and put on a coat and tie. And it's time. I can't wait, Roger, for President Trump to even suggest to President Zelensky to go so far as to say, if you're going to make any other requests of me as president, I'm going to expect you to wear a suit and tie. It is an embarrassment, and I'm so glad that you brought that up and that it's caught so much attention. It's necessary.
Yeah, it is a bit strange. As you know, we talked about this yesterday. The president's nominees for various cabinet offices now moving around Capitol Hill. The lead off, of course, Pete Hegseth, the former Fox commentator, combat veteran, who's been appointed to be Secretary of Defense. Yesterday, Joni Ernst of Iowa, who was thought to be on the fence at a minimum, announced that she would vote for him. There are other voices who say that there's a number of Republicans who are making noises as if they will vote for the president's nominees, but will not necessarily do so in the end. This is, as you know, this is a kind of a shift in the norms of this process. Republican senators on two occasions, both with Obama and with Biden, voted to confirm their cabinet appointments, despite the fact that they disagreed with their political philosophy. It used to be that you could only, or you would only vote against a Senate confirmation if there was some larger issue of malfeasance or illegality or some problem in their record that emerged from the hearings or the background checks. But now, evidently, you can just vote against someone if you don't like their political philosophy. I think it's a dangerous trend, no?
It is a very dangerous trend. And Roger, I've been in Washington, D.C. for the past couple of days and was at the Capitol yesterday. And what's interesting just being around the city is there's still a sense of shell shock amongst Washingtonians and the political elites and on K Street that President Trump not only won, but won with such a large mandate. I lived in Washington for 12 years, and you're right. It used to be that these are the president-elect's nominees. And unless there is something egregious in their background, almost always the opposing party would support the president-elect's nominees. Roger, if you go back to confirmations even 12, 15, 20 years ago, I mean, you'd had occasionally a couple of people that would go rogue, but traditionally you'd see, even with U.S. Supreme Court justice nominations, you'd really see votes like 95-5 or 98-2, but you certainly don't see that now. You see this party line split, and it's this type of mentality, this type of political opposition, I think, that is hurting America. And again, it's why President Trump won with such a gigantic mandate. They want people to start working together to improve our country rather than investigate, which has been the strategy by the Democrats for the last 8 years.
A very interesting video here is Geraldo Rivera, who I think would be considered a more liberal voice in the media, but voicing his support for Pete Hegseth.
I know Pete, Major Pete, I call him pretty well, being on Fox and Friends Weekend for those many years, sitting on the couch with him, sharing the couch. Been out with him. I thought, as Scott mentions, that he was on the ropes for a lot of the stuff coming up that none of us had ever heard of before because of non-disclosures and so forth. But then Pete did something, Major Pete did something that I think is the difference between a combat veteran and the rest of the world. What Pete did was go to his combat brothers, and it was they who started speaking on his behalf, saying, talking about his courage, talking about how he earned those 2 Bronze Stars, how he never allowed his men to get in front of him in a hot zone. And I think that's what the Defense Department needs. That's what the Pentagon needs. And I think that realization swept subtly, but I think with growing momentum through Washington, D.C., that if you haven't served the country in combat, then shut up. Or, you better respect.
I mean,
respect.
I agree with that last sentiment particularly. We talked about this yesterday, still apropos today. Tulsi Gabbard, who I think is one of the president's most outstanding nominees for the Director of National Intelligence. Here's somebody who served 4 terms in Congress as a Democrat, was on the Armed Services Committee, was on the Foreign Affairs Committee. But more precisely, she is a combat veteran who risked her life in both Kuwait and Iraq. She holds the rank of lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. She still does reserve duty. I remember her telling me before the election that other than her couple days of scheduled reserve duty, she had spent every single day on the road campaigning for Donald Trump. The idea of senators questioning her patriotism or her loyalty to the country, given her service record, I think this is really repugnant. I really find it objectionable.
You know, Roger, I've been to war. I was a civilian. I never wore the uniform, but I've been to war. I was in Iraq 14 times. TDY is my temporary duty station. I know what it smells like, what it sounds like, and what Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard have had to go through in service to our country as combat veterans. What every male and female who put on the uniform with the United States flag on your arm, what they've had to put up with and endure is quite remarkable. And the average American doesn't understand the sacrifice and how difficult that is. And again, for those that have never, elitists who have never served our country in that capacity, have never put on the uniform, have never been to a war zone served in a war zone as a civilian or a military or a contractor, Geraldo is right. Sit down and shut up. And imagine what this does right now to the morale of the men and women in uniform serving our country all overseas and protecting us at such a dangerous time when their own political leaders, when their own senators are questioning the patriotism and attacking honorable combat veterans who have wanted to do nothing but to serve their country and to continue their service in these capacities. It's a total disgrace.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with Mark Vargas to talk more American politics. Folks, Christmas is upon us, and if you're looking for the perfect gift for the person in your family or in your circle of friends who loves history or politics or mysteries, let me recommend my book once again, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ. In this New York Times bestseller, I make the case that there was indeed I hate this word, conspiracy that involved the Central Intelligence Agency, Big Texas Oil, organized crime, banking interests, the Secret Service, and then after the fact, the FBI to remove John F. Kennedy. I use eyewitness evidence, fingerprint evidence, and deep Texas politics to make this case. As you will see, the book is very heavily documented and footnoted. Despite the fact that I took it to, I think, 6 publishers before I found one willing to publish it, very quickly became a New York Times bestseller. Oliver Stone sent me a nice note after reading my book, saying that he wished he had read it prior to his making of the legendary film JFK. I think perhaps he did not understand the full role of Lyndon Johnson. Now, Johnson is the man who had the most to lose and the most to gain. LBJ was under investigation in 2 massive corruption investigations, the Bobby Baker investigation and the Billy Sol Estes investigation. JFK had already announced that he was dropping Johnson from the ticket, which explains his motive in getting Kennedy to go to Texas, and also his motive in getting the motorcade to go into the city of Dallas. So in truth, JFK was leaving the airport going to the merchandise mart, neither one of which is actually inside the city limits, yet the motorcade goes into the city and violates a basic Secret Service protocol by going through Dealey Plaza, where the car has to come to a full stop at a stop sign. And of course, that is the juncture at which the shooting begins. So anyway, if you are interested in history, if you're interested in this subject, and many Americans are, let me recommend it to you, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ. Now, you can get your copy in time for Christmas, which I'm happy to sign or to personalize. You get that by going to themanwhokilledkennedy.com, themanwhokilledkennedy.com. I think that you will find this to be a very popular Christmas gift for the reader in your family or your circle of friends. So I urge you to check it out. Let's return with my co-host, Mark Vargas, the editor-in-chief of the Illinois Review. President Trump said late last week that he thought members of the January 6th committee should be prosecuted. Now, interestingly enough, Liz Cheney posted on social media saying that any lawyer who sought to investigate the activities of the January 6th committee would be subject to sanctions. Liz Cheney is herself an attorney. Therefore, she should know that the fact that she approached witnesses to the January 6th committee around the backs of their lawyers, well, that would subject her to sanctions and perhaps worse. Benny Thompson, you remember him, he was the chairman of the January 6th committee. Now, he had already filed a civil suit against Donald Trump, accusing him of being responsible for the illegal acts on January 6th, which underlies the fact that he was never a fair or unbiased arbiter in his role as chairman of this committee. The committee was supposed to be a fact-finding committee. Thompson had to withdraw his civil suit, I think, for public relations reasons. But I think Speaker Johnson, at a minimum, should appoint a committee to investigate the January 6th committee investigation. It's interesting that Matt Gaetz posted yesterday that he's one of the few members of Congress who's read all of the January 6th materials. And that he thinks that there was a lot more going on there and that there should be greater public disclosure. Let's take a look at Benny Thompson.
Former President Trump in an interview suggested that
members should be jailed. Do you have any reaction to that? And do you think that a preemptive pardon is necessary?
Well, I'll take it one at a time, okay? First of all, former to-be President Trump is absolutely wrong. There's nothing we did as a January 6th Select Committee that violates the law. Just because you disagree with the work of the committee is no way to threaten those members of the committee with jail. So obviously that's his opinion. As to whether or not President Biden does anything with respect to that, it's his decision. I'm comfortable with the fact that as members of Congress, we were doing our job. And as long as we do our job, There are certain guarantees that we have, and I look forward to enforcing those guarantees.
Now, Adam Schiff, he said that he thinks that a preemptive pardon isn't necessary. Do you agree with that? Do you think it's not necessary?
Well, he's a member of the committee. He's absolutely has his right. I think that's a decision that is left to the president.
And then what do you make of Kash Patel? How concerned are you if he were to get confirmed to hold this FBI position?
Well, again, I think people in positions of responsibility to carry out those responsibilities according to the statute. I don't think you have to go against individuals because you dislike them or they take positions you disagree with. As a nation of laws, clearly we stand strong on the principles of freedom of speech, assembly, and all those things that are guaranteed by the Constitution. And obviously I would expect someone in his position to do likewise.
Very interesting. So all of these people who are in a frenzy to put Donald Trump in jail, they now think it's inappropriate that Trump call for consequences to their actions. To be very specific, Cassidy Hutchinson, who was a witness before the committee, was coached by Liz Cheney. And Hutchinson made a number of statements regarding myself and General Flynn that were just flat out perjury. She specifically said that President Trump instructed Mark Meadows to call Roger Stone and General Flynn on January 5th to, Liz Cheney hopefully said, find out what was going to happen on January 6th. Mark, there's never been any such conversation. I've never communicated with Mark Meadows in any mode. I think I met him once in a green room in Fox back when he was a member of Congress, but the phone records would indicate that and the truth is no such conversation ever took place. I checked with General Flynn. He also has never spoken to Meadows, not on that day or any other day. Then Hutchinson goes on to say that Meadows was planning to go to a meeting in a war room inside the Willard Hotel, but that she dissuaded him from going to said meeting, but that he later called Stone and Flynn to get a debrief. Well, if there was a war room in the Willard Hotel, I was never in it and never aware of it. 3 different sources have confirmed that for the Washington Post. And either was General Flynn, and General Flynn, once again, neither one of us received any such phone call. I can also tell you that a number of the videos they showed were different than the videos that they leaked to CNN the day before. So a simple AI detection software will show you that these videos had been created, but why do they have a different visual component when they showed them in the hearings than when they showed them the night before on CNN? This is one of the great frauds upon the American people. I also need to remind you, there were no real Republicans on this on this committee. So Nancy Pelosi rejected the nominees of the minority leader, and we got Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger as the only 2 Republicans on the committee. The committee had no vice chairman. It violates House rules in that sense as well. I really think there needs to be an investigation here.
There does need to be an investigation because for the last 8 years, the Democrats have not been held accountable for their actions. We still have J6ers, political prisoners, living in horrific conditions in jail, while this committee withheld evidence. They hid the truth. They harassed and intimidated innocent people like you and General Flynn. People need to be held accountable. And to think it's laughable that the lone Republicans on this committee were Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, both individuals who endorsed Kamala Harris, and Liz Cheney was out campaigning for him. Adam Kinzinger spoke at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. It's outrageous. And what they didn't want to talk about on that committee was when President Trump said, go and protest peacefully. I love how they just use selective sound bites to go after. You would think that this was a campaign, Roger, run by the FBI and the DOJ, because they're using the exact same tactics on this committee. And more importantly, everybody knows that it's the Speaker of the House, who is Nancy Pelosi, that controls the security and the police presence around the Capitol grounds. Why wasn't there enough officers there? They knew that there were threats, potential threats. Nancy Pelosi did this on purpose because this was about get Trump for last 4 years. Get Trump, and this was exactly why this committee was created. And again, if we don't take action and hold them accountable now, we'll begin to see this happen year after year, election after election, administration after administration, targeting Republicans and good people like you, General Flynn, and so many others.
Yeah, there's kind of two pieces of false narrative here that they just will not abandon. One is that multiple police officers were killed on January 6th. That is simply false. And secondarily, that President Trump never offered the National Guard troops. Now, Kash Patel was the first one to provide the documentation that absolutely proves that the Pentagon did offer the troops. Now a House committee has come back and reaffirmed that. Yet the left continues this false narrative that Trump never offered National Guard troops, and it was Mayor Bowser of D.C. and House Speaker Pelosi who denied the need for them. I don't think that without investigation we're ever going to get to the bottom of this. Adam Schiff, speaking of my favorite congressman, Senator Elect, this guy lies as easily as he breathes. Last week on CNN, he was back yet again, recycling the same Russian collusion notion. Once again, he claims falsely, high-level members of the Trump campaign were sharing polling information with a Russian intelligence asset, and therefore we have the proof of Russian collusion. This is yet again a lie. The high-level official he refers to is Paul Manafort. As Manafort writes extensively in his book, there was no proprietary private Trump campaign polling at that juncture. The campaign had not yet polled the general election. There was a lot of public polling that you could go anywhere online. If he gave anything to Konstantin Kilimnik, the man who Matt Taibbi has now, I think, firmly established was a U.S. intelligence asset, not a Russian intelligence asset, it would be public information. So once again, Schiff's claims don't hold water. But it's the same one that Andrew Weissman falls back on whenever he's cornered over the fact that they spent tens of millions of dollars and never found any Russian collusion. Oh no, they say, Manafort passing on this polling information. That's nonsense. And then the other one they always use, of course, is, well, Roger Stone was in touch with Guccifer 2.0. Yeah, in an innocuous exchange on Twitter direct messages, which I myself released, which took place three months after WikiLeaks had already released all of the material regarding the DNC and Hillary Clinton. So completely innocuous and meaningless claim, but they keep recycling this. Now, however, Adam Schiff, who I think was trying to throw Donald Trump in jail, insisting that he was a Russian traitor, he seems to have changed his tune. Take a look at this video.
On the day Donald Trump leaves office, the Justice Department may indict him.
Very strongly in favor of indicting the president when he is out of office.
I don't think the incoming president should be threatening his political opponents with jail time. That's not the kind of talk we should hear from a president in a democracy.
You know what? If it's Schiff, flush it. I mean, this guy is just beyond belief. Lesley Stahl, you know her. Lesley Stahl, in an interview yesterday, she's shocked that the American people don't trust the media. Let's take a look.
But they're fraying. Almost everything you said is fraying. The press
fraying,
report,
you're saying.
Fraying.
Yeah, totally. and has been
And as I said,
for 20 years.
Well,
I mean,
the press for 20
nothing's going to stop you from being the free press.
Well, you really are a sunny person, aren't you?
Sunny?
Well, I'm very worried about the press, extremely worried about the press.
Not only for the technological reasons we're all worried about, and not only for the financial tectonic plates moving, but for some other reason. What one?
Well, for example, I once asked Donald Trump, why do you keep pounding on the press? This was right after he won in 2016. You know, it's kind of boring. You say the same thing over and over, and you won. You know, it's time to drop it. Why do you do it? And he said, I do it and I repeat it because the more I do that, the less people are going to believe you when you say negative things about me and whatever else.
Totally.
And it's happened. If you watch the opinion of us, how many people trust the press anymore? I mean, we're way down there with the lawyers.
Yeah.
This is really rough, as you know.
You're way down there with Congress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're way down there with Congress, but we're way down there. And I despair. Seriously, I worry greatly. And I think there are other institutions that have been suffering. And you're right not to blame Donald Trump 100%, obviously. Started many years before. But we're at a point where if the President of the United States is going to say legacy media is dead, well, I guess Musk said that. Legacy media is dead.
And he wants it dead. He wants other media.
But it is kind of, sort of, hobbling right now. And I don't know how it recovers. I'm very dark about it.
You're very dark about it.
I am.
I just, well, this is, you know, we're talking about something so essential that you don't want to say, well, we'll see, you know, or maybe the world will end, we'll see.
Really extraordinary. I don't know if you saw this the other day, but Jim Vanderhei, who was one of the founders of Politico, I think sold his interest there now at Axios, just ranting about the rise of independent media, citizen journalism. They think they can put the toothpaste back in the tube. They don't understand that, you know, there are more people watching the StoneZONE than watching Ari Melber and The Beat Off, his show on MSNBC. So, here's a little bite of Lesley Stahl that I think will give you some idea as to why Americans no longer believe the media.
The biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign. They spied on my campaign.
Well, there's no real evidence of that.
Of course there is.
No.
It's all over the place. Leslie,
Sir,
they spied on my campaign and they got caught.
Can I say something? You know, this is 60 Minutes. And we can't put on things we can't verify.
You won't put it on because it's bad for Biden.
We can't put on things we can't verify.
Leslie, they spied on my campaign.
Well, we can't verify that.
It's been totally verified.
No.
It's been, just go down and get the papers. They spied on my campaign, they got caught.
No.
And then they went much further than that, and they got caught. And you will see that, Leslie, and you know that, but you just don't want to put it on the air.
As a matter of fact, I don't know that. The Democrats are a party of pedophiles.
I would definitely say so. They support grooming children.
They are not pedophiles. Why would you say that?
Democrats support, even Joe Biden, the president himself, supports children being sexualized and having transgender surgeries. Sexualizing children is what pedophiles do to children.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, wow. I mean, first of all, I think Lesley Stahl owes Donald Trump an apology. No, Mark, have we not established definitively that the intelligence agencies were, in fact, spying on Donald Trump?
Yes. And what's interesting, Roger, is I saw a poll actually that said head lice, colonoscopy, and root canals actually have a higher favorability rating than the media. You know, more than an apology to President Donald Trump, they owe the American people an apology. And what's great about this is the American people are finally waking up. I mean, they talked about the Washington Post, the article on one of the articles on the Washington Post on January 20th, 2020, when 2017, when President Trump took office, the push for impeachment begins today. That was an actual headline in the Washington Post. He hadn't even been taken the oath of office yet, and they were already pushing for his impeachment. For so long, the media has been doing the bidding of the Democratic Party, and they've lied. They lied about the Russia collusion. That didn't exist, but they still reported on it. The phone call with the Ukrainian president, they still reported on that. It was a perfect phone call. They just have, for 8 years, they've done nothing but spew untruthful information and lies, and now they wonder why MSNBC and CNN, their ratings are plummeting. MSNBC is cutting the salaries of people like Rachel Maddow and others. They're going to be gutting those news organizations again, because the American people are finally waking up.
Yeah, it really is extraordinary, and they wonder why they're not believed. It's because so much of what they spew is just not accurate. Donald Trump is, without any question, the funniest president we've ever had. If he wasn't president and he wasn't in real estate, let's face it, the guy could do stand up. I mean, he is hysterical. But this posting on Truth Social, I guess also on X, where he said it was great to meet Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada. I look forward to seeing the governor again soon, so we will continue our in-depth talks on tariffs and trades, these also which will be truly spectacular for all. This is comedy gold. I mean, who else would have the nerve to do that? Unfortunately, some in Canada have no sense of humor. Take a look at this.
Trump on his Truth Social this morning greeted the Prime Minister as the governor of the 51st state, something along that line. Have you seen that? Do you have any thoughts about that, about the dynamics of the relationship?
I haven't seen that, but so I probably shouldn't comment. Just that with the Truth Social post of Donald Trump planting a Canadian flag on a Canadian mountain, I have to say that to the extent that this 51st state thing was a joke, it's not funny. And I find that pursuing it on social media makes me increasingly nervous. Mr. Trump has, we have to be very, very careful with the president-elect, and we have to pull together, I think, all opposition party leaders and premiers, all elements of the Canadian political establishment, such as we are, better pull together to make sure we don't create any cracks that allow Fox News or Mr. Trump's social media to exploit us and say things about Canada that aren't true.
Hey, lady, lighten up. I mean, come on. Does anyone really think Donald Trump is going to annex Canada as our 52nd state? Just no sense of humor at all. Mark, your thoughts?
It is funny, but he's making a point because Justin Trudeau is wildly unpopular in Canada. Roger, in early October, a board that I chair hosted former Conservative Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper for a talk, and former Prime Minister Harper made the comment that if the election were held today, Justin Trudeau and his Liberal Party would come in 4th place. But we talk about low approval ratings. I mean, Trudeau's approval ratings are right there with the mainstream media like CNN and MSNBC. He's completely destroyed that country. But what's laughable is Justin Trudeau, and I think President Trump said after he put out a post, 15 seconds later, Trudeau was on his way down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President-elect Trump, and how Trudeau is actually trying to salvage his own reputation by cozying up to a wildly popular president-elect, not just here in the United States, but as we saw this past weekend in Paris, around the world. America is back, and Justin Trudeau is trying to ride a little bit on those coattails. But President Trump is certainly knows what's going on. But it's funny, but the genius of this is it's humor, but he's also making a point, and I love it.
Yeah, it's great. Again, we touched on this yesterday, but taking the image of Jill Biden, kind of looking longingly, I would say almost, at President Trump in Paris, the president uses this to promote his new line of fragrances, both a perfume for ladies and cologne for men that he calls fight, fight, fight. Now, I don't know if he's really selling this product or whether he's trolling again, but Mark, are you going to be purchasing this for all the women in your life this Christmas?
I absolutely will. And, that look that she was giving President Trump was quite remarkable. And I couldn't help but think when I saw that smile on her face and that gaze towards President Trump, I couldn't, Roger, help but think of that bright red outfit that she wore on Election Day when casting her vote, perhaps for Donald Trump and not Kamala Harris.
I think there's a high probability of that. I would notice that when the Bidens and Kamala Harris were both at the Kennedy Center the other night, it was kind of telling that they actually never looked at each other. Looked very, very frosty to me. And of course, Biden, when he received President Trump at the White House, a man who only weeks before he was referring to as Hitler, he and Hitler seemed to be having a pretty good time. I don't think there's any question that that Joe resents having been forced out of the race. Joe probably thinks, I think this is reasonable to assume, that he would have run a better race than Kamala Harris did. We also now know, based on the admission of her own campaign aides, David Plouffe and the others, that their entire campaign was essentially a psyop, that they were juicing the early polls to show that there was some artificial surge in Kamala Harris's support. They now admit that none of their internal polling ever had them ahead. Additionally, now 15 states, I believe, maybe it's 19, investigating this Act Blue scandal in which millions of dollars are flooding into her campaign. But they've turned off, at least early on, they turn off the credit card confirmation. So you could use a credit card from a foreign country, or you could use essentially a prepaid credit card from a foreign country to make a contribution. Additionally, and this work is being done, you have donors who have given to Democrat candidates, such as Letitia James in New York, for example, and others, dozens of times, small contributions, but dozens and dozens of times, which adds up to very substantial money. But then when you go contact those people, they have no memory of making those contributions. They have no history of actually making those contributions. So I think it's fair to say that her entire campaign, which was a fiasco from start to finish, was largely a psyop. It was designed to convince us that she was a viable candidate in a close race. And then I must say, paying the Reverend Al Sharpton $500,000 on the side to his nonprofit to be on his MSNBC show. First of all, she's a newsmaker anyway you slice it. He's in the journalism business by virtue of his show. But these giant payments, paying Beyonce $10 million not to sing, paying all this other big act talent so they can disguise the fact that she can't fill a convention hall. She can't fill a meeting space. So trying to give the impression that people who are coming to hear these hot musical acts or entertainers are actually there for Kamala Harris. And the worst part, as I'm sure you've seen, Mark, is they end up with a massive debt. It's hard to understand.
She couldn't manage a campaign. What made you think that she was going to be able to manage a country? And Roger, the most disgusting part of all of this is, imagine your grandmother or grandfather who worked so hard their entire lives and don't have much left in their final chapter. They're sitting at their kitchen table in Ohio or in Pennsylvania and writing a $20 check to the Kamala Harris campaign, only to learn later and after the election that they would take their hard-earned money, the money that they may have cut down on groceries that week because they wanted to send their $20 to the Harris campaign, to learn that they were depositing that check and lining the pockets of multimillionaires, billionaires, to create an optic that she's popular and that everybody supports her. It's disgusting. It's stealing their money. And it's why President Trump, again, won by such a large and historic mandate on November 5th.
All right, we're going to leave it with this. Some people may not have believed during the campaign that Donald Trump was intent on deporting the most dangerous illegals who have entered our country. Those would be those with criminal records, either here or in the country of origin. Here's a quick video of Tom Homan, who doesn't take this seriously, for anyone who doesn't take this seriously.
And we're going to start right here in Chicago, Illinois. If your Chicago mayor doesn't want to help, we can step aside. But if he impedes us, if he knowingly harbors and conceals an illegal alien, I will prosecute him.
Yes. Final thoughts here as we wrap up today's show.
No, the Homan's speech that was in Chicago, and he said it will be ground zero for deportations. I love it. It's got the Democrats trembling, and Mayor Johnson's poll numbers at 15%. It can't get any worse, and January 20th can't come any faster.
I completely agree with that sentiment. Folks, I want to remind you that there are 3 opportunities, or I say 2 opportunities, to see the Stone Zone with Roger Stone and Mark Vargas this week. Every weekday, we can see us at worldviewtube.com. That's at 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Eastern. But if you don't catch the show there, let me urge you to subscribe to us, to follow us at rumble.com/Roger Stone, rumble.com/Roger Stone. Go download the Rumble app on your cell phone right now, and then push the little follow icon there in the right corner. Set yourself a notification so you never miss the show. Also remind you yet again that we are our other sponsor are the great folks at mypillow.com and my great friend Mike Lindell. If you go over to mypillow.com for your Christmas shopping, please remember to use promo code STONE, whether it is the dog beds or the pet blankets or the extraordinarily absorbent bath and shower towels or the luxurious bed sheets. There are many, many great products at mypillow.com. And of course, we earn a small commission here, which keeps the lights on at the Stone Zone. So folks, please go on over to mypillow.com. And when you do, to do some of your Christmas shopping, please remember to use promo code STONE. All right, that's it for today. I'm Roger Stone. Thank you for joining us in the Stone Zone. Tomorrow, John Tobacco, the Wall Street wizard, joins us to talk about the future of crypto, Bitcoin, and how this administration will lead in a different direction. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?